Hi, welcome back. My name is Ajay. Are you tired of importing the data from SQL Server to Excel cells every day? What if I told you there is a smarter way of bringing the data from SQL Server to Excel using the Power Query M code, and that too without any VBA, messy coding, or any complex code? In this video, I'll show you how to dynamically pull the SQL data to Excel cells using M code, and then you will be able to enter a value in Excel cell and just say refresh and instantly see the results from the SQL Server. This will save your time, energy, bring the accuracy, will minimize the scope of the errors, and fully automate your Excel reporting. Let's begin. Yeah, so welcome back. In this lecture, I want to talk about the SQL Server, how you can import the data from SQL Server, how can using the Power Query. Okay, if you're not aware about the SQL Server, obviously this will not make any sense to you because you are not then I assume you are not working on SQL Server. But those who are working on SQL Server, this is a very useful thing because SQL Server is a database and it can hold infinite data also, and sometimes we have to go and take that data in the Power Query. So how we can do that? So right now I will take the data. I'm using the database Adventures Works 2019. You can use any data. And first, I want to show you that any table we can pick from here, like this is a duplicate records. So if I execute this, this is the information in this data, in this table, I beg your pardon. And this is a very small data basically. So if I just show you that connect the object explorer. So this is basically the server name that I have. This is my SQL Server, which is installed on my laptop. So this is the server name, right? This is important because this is what we will use in the Power Query. So now what we have to do is I'm just going to select this. I just copy this query, SQL query, select query. Let's go to the Power Query. It's very simple actually. Even if you do not know, I mean, whenever you start, or let's say you have a requirement all of a sudden to take the data from the SQL Server, even if you do not know, it's very simple. Just see the steps. First of all, we go in the data tab, and this is the same process in the Power BI also, right? Because in Power BI also, we have the Power Query, you know that, right? So the steps are same. You can use this in Excel Power Query or Power BI Power Query, right? It's the same. So get the data, and in this we will find out where is a database. This is our database from SQL Server. I'll click here. And once you click here, you have to go and give the server name. If the server is not on your machine, obviously you have to type in here the server, the specific servers. So I'm just going to type here 007. Then the database, it's optional, but we will write. So it's for me, it's Adventures 2019. Now in the advanced option, please click here. Here you have to write that query. So I'm just going to type in here, select all from the duplicate records. DBO is a schema, you don't have to worry. I mean, duplicate records is the name of a table. So it is going to select everything, which means basically we are saying that selects the entire data, including everything, right? All the rows and the columns. So you just have to say, okay, it's very simple. And now if the query is correct, we have already tested this query in the SQL Server, right? It's actually Adventure Works. Yes, it has to be correct. Make sure you write this. There should be no typo mistake. So let's connect this. Let's wait for the connection. Now I can see the data perfect. I'm going to take this to the Power Query. So you see that it is so simple, right? So same way you can connect with the MySQL, Oracle, whatever the database you have. So if you go in the advanced editor, you will find here that a query is created, which if you're a M code person, you know how to code in the Power Query, then this is very useful for you. Because right now, see, the query is select all from duplicate records. So if you want to modify this query, you need not to redo the things. You can just go and edit this. And I'm just going to tell you that. So it's very simple. So right now, if you see, I have got all the records. Now, suppose I wanted to actually have only Zone East, Now, what I'm going to do, you don't have to re-import the data again with the new query. What you can do is, you can just, even if you go in the source, you can edit the things here, or generally I prefer, if I have to do major changes, I prefer this, a bigger window. So here, select all from DBO duplicate records, and I can use my where clause as well. Let me just tell you where the zone actually is, let's say east. So this is the SQL, with the where clause. So I will write where zone. Make sure you write the zone in the proper case. I mean, exactly the same as it is written here, because Power Query is a case sensitive. However, writing a SQL is okay because SQL is not part of a Power Query, right? So I'm using the field zone, so it has to be Z capital and equals to. Make sure you have the double quotes or single quote. I'm just okay. Let me just use the single quotes here because uh, I use SQL Server and their single quote is allowed. So I'm going to say east, and here you can write east in capital, small, doesn't matter, because east is a value. It is not a part of Power Query formula. Okay, so single quotes are very important, and I just say backspace. Okay, so now what I should see is that I should see only the east zone. So if I just click OK, let's see that what is going to happen. So now permission is required. Okay, edit the permission, and I say run this again. So you can see that I've got here my data. Fantastic, right? So it is very easy. We can connect the data with the SQL Server. Now this is fine as far as we don't want to automate this, because this is every time I can come here and I can edit it. But what if you have to go and maybe you want that this should come from Excel, right? So if I change this in the Excel, it should change, isn't it? So let's go and try this level. This is going to be a super awesome. This is going to be very, very helpful for you. So I just go and create the table here, and I write here, let's say east, for example. Let's convert this to a table. My table has headers. So we're going to connect this with the, you know, the other query. So this is zone input. Let's say this is what I write, zone input. Okay. So take this table to the Power Query, and please, again, I'm repeating that you can do the same thing in Power BI also. If you want to use the SQL Server data in the Power BI, you can, because Power Query works the same way. The difference is there, it supplies the data to the BI, and here whatever the data you have, you can just use that in Excel, right? So here we have the zone input. Now you all know in my M code lectures I've told you, or otherwise also, if you know that if I have to link this query, because this is what I'm now going to target, I want this to be coming from here, because this is coming from Excel, right? So we first click on the east. I want to change this to a value, right? You can add the new step. You can write zone curly brackets 0 also, because this is the first record, right? So first record is referred by the 0 index, or otherwise the simple way is just click on the east. Don't click on the header, the value. Right click here and say drill down. We have done all these things, but I'm just repeating. So you see now it is converted to a value. Now this value, the plan is that we are going to use this in the Excel. Okay, we are going to use this in the Excel, from the Excel. So what I will do, I will just keep this as it is, and we will use the another so that you can practice on that as well. So this is my query 2, or final query, whatever you want to call it. Now let's quickly go here and let's see that how we can do it. So let's see if we are able to do this. See, the first thing is that now this is my source. So I'm just going to, because now you can't directly use this here, right? You have to create a separate query here. To create the query, to create this query, let me copy this. This is my query, right? So obviously we need a step. So I'm just going to write step 2, for example, or whatever you want to write, right? Maybe I'll say my SQL. Okay. Now this is your query. It should go in the double quotes, obviously. And this value should come from your variable. And here we will have a variable which I'm going to concatenate this my variable or my zone. I mean, it's all again up to you. My zone, for example. Now my zone will come from the step 1. So what is my step 1? So I just write step 1. You can give whatever name you want. So we will simply go and write the zone input, right? This value, which is coming from Excel. Press the comma, and this goes to the step 1. So I'll go and write actually here my zone. My zone. Okay. M capital. One more thing you have to do. I have observed this thing, experienced this thing, that if you just go and write this SQL, it will not work, because generally in SQL Server, I'm talking about SQL Server. I don't know about the other databases. If you have to write where clause and there is a text field, let's say where zone equals to east, you can't write like this. You have to write single quotes, not even double quotes in SQL Server, right? So we have to produce these, we have to create these single quotes. To create the single quotes, we will use double quotes, and under the double quotes, we will write single quote, and that has to be concatenated with your input, the my zone. Make sense, right? This also we do in the VBA also, when we have to create the SQL in the VBA. Nothing new about it, but just in case if you are not aware of these things, I'm telling you. So this query now will take the input from here, my zone, and my zone will go here. And the zone input, as we know that this is already a value. It is not a list, it is not a table, it is not a record, it is a value. So we can directly link this with this query 2. Okay. Now finally, everything is done. So the source now, because in the source now, what we have to do, you have to write the query name. You directly can't write the query here. Okay. So let's just simply go and write the query. Your query actually is my SQL, correct? And I think I just put the comma here because this is the second line. So this is how the data, I think data looks okay to me, right? And well, let's see. First of all, there is no error coming. That is a good thing. So I'm just going to say done. And so you need the edit permission. Okay. I want to rerun this. Let's run this here again. Okay. Now we have got the data. Congratulations. So because in the zone input, we have the ace. Now, please listen to me very, very carefully. Sometimes what happens, because I've already done those settings, so I want you to know, you get here a firewall error. So what you have to do, because what happens, you're pulling the data from SQL Server, right? But during that process, the value is coming from Excel, because we are providing the zone. So sometimes Power Query creates a conflict that I'm not going to do this. Maybe Power Query treat this as a threat. I'm not sure. But so what you have to do, you have to go in the Power Query here, option and setting, query option. And in the privacy level, please make sure this should be on the ignore, because by default, this is always on this combine data according to your privacy level. So make sure you have this. Okay. If this Windows firewall error is coming. And then when you click OK, and if the rest of the process is okay, steps are okay, you will see your data. Okay, that's very important, because I had this issue. Then I had to Google it. So once this query is coming, query 2, I'm just going to keep this as query 2 only. And now we will just go and close and load this query. And so I have to change my Power Query settings, because directly the data doesn't come. So I'll just use this load to here and the table. So I'm going to use this, yeah, here, fine. Click OK. You see the data has come. Now we will go and simply say, I want west data, for example. Okay. And let me just refresh. Let's see that. So you have to run the query again. It is asking you, yes, fine. We can run this. As long as I don't have to go inside the Power Query to rerun it, I'm okay with this. It's very simple, right? So congratulations, fantastic job, right? So we have got this data, right? So if I simply go and say not, we don't have the data in the SQL Server, if you remember. So this should come as blank. I'm just checking if there should be no error in case of blank data. So it's not coming. There's no error. And let me just keep this to east value. Fantastic. Great learning. I also learned a lot of things, and I have just shared that with you. So just to cross check, you can see in this data, we don't have any, other than east and the west, we don't have any other zone data. Okay. So thank you so much.